My name is Gerry Kitzhaber. Today is the 22nd of January, 2003. On September 11th, 2001, I was in my office in the Pentagon, third floor of the B ring, fourth corridor, on the outside of the B ring, working in the office of the Army G3. My boss, General Webster, his office was on the E ring, directly outward to that, near the point of impact. On that morning, I got to work about 6:30, went to the Pentagon Athletic Club, went for a run up through Washington, D.C., around the monument, past the Lincoln Memorial, and returned pretty much like every other day. Very beautiful day outside, very sunny and bright. It didn't seem out of the ordinary in any way. Got back to the office about 8 or 8:30, sat down, had a cup of coffee, and one of my office mates told me to change the station on my radio to a different station, and listened for a while and found out what had happened in New York. And we spent the next 10 or 15 minutes just standing around the radio trying to get as much information as we could about what had happened in New York. And back and forth, trying to understand really what happened, and discussing who likely was the suspect, and the name Osama bin Laden seemed to come up quite often. Shortly thereafter, my wife called me, and on the other end of the line I could hear her singing. She was singing Happy Birthday to me. September 11th is my birthday. After she finished singing her song, I wanted to at least let her finish singing Happy Birthday, and then I asked her if she'd listened to the radio or TV that morning, and she had not. And I told her what happened in New York, and her first response was, well, dear, are you okay there? Are you safe in the Pentagon? And my response was, yes, I should be fine here. This is the Pentagon. Somewhat ironic in my response. Talked to her for a few minutes, and as I finished talking to her, I hung up the phone and twirled around in my chair and was going to stand up and continue my conversation with an office mate on who the likely suspects were in New York. And just as I was about to stand up in my desk, or in my chair rather, the plane impacted the outside of the Pentagon and nearly sent me sprawling onto the floor. It was just a tremendous explosion, and I could feel the shock wave come through the building. And dirt and rocks and debris of all sorts was flying outside my window, because my window bordered just between the B and the C ring, and the impact of the plane broke through the C ring, and all the hot air and gases and inertia from the plane as it blew out through the C ring turned the inner space between the B and the C ring into what sounded like a wind tunnel. After that happened, we didn't waste any time in evacuating our office and getting out of the building. And they moved everyone out into the center courtyard, where we took accountability and tried to make sure we had everyone. We had most everyone that we knew was in the office that day. And we stood there and waited for a few minutes to see what we ought to do. And I looked around, and I noticed a group of people gathering in the corner by the sidewalk. And I got to looking closer, and I noticed that in the midst of this crowd there was a piece of airplane debris. And I could tell it still had the painting of some airline. So I knew at that point that we had been struck by an airplane of some kind. Turned then to one of my office mates and asked him, there was 2 planes that hit New York, I asked him, and I said, so where's the second one? And he said, gosh, I don't know. And I said, well, I didn't think waiting here was a really good idea. At that point, we realized that we needed to get out. So we attempted to exit through the 8th corridor, because I knew that would get us to the north parking lot. And we went through the first doorway into the 8th corridor, and it seemed like a stampede of people coming in our direction. And the only thing that went through my mind then was there must be somebody at the exit with a machine gun or something of that effect, because it just didn't seem logical that people would be running towards the center courtyard. So we came back into the center courtyard, and about the time we got into the center courtyard, the security officer pointed everybody to go south to the south exit out of the building into the south parking lot, which we did, hurried out into the south parking lot, and just as we got into the south parking lot, somebody announced over a PA system or hollered that there was another plane coming in our direction, and told us to get out of the south parking lot. So everybody raced to get out of the parking lot. And at that point was probably the worst feeling in my life, was the lack of security. You don't know, where can you go that's safe? And the New York City Twin Towers had been attacked. The Pentagon had been attacked. It seemed as if there was no place safe to go for any of us. So we exited the parking lot and crawled underneath one of the overpasses and got over by the Pentagon City Mall. And at that time, the F-15s flew over, and so we did get some semblance of safety at that point, that at least we shouldn't have to worry about airplanes crashing into us from out of the sky. But at the same time, I was always concerned, and one thing that kept going through my mind is that no matter where I went or what I did, I had to think twice about it, because there could be another terrorist attack of some nature somewhere. So it was very unnerving to think that no matter where you went or what you did, if you made one wrong move, it could be your last, and it may not even be a wrong move. But we finally exited the area, and as I walked around the west side of the building and looked back to see this huge gaping hole in the building, it was almost as if I was looking at a movie set. It was just incomprehensible that something that horrific could happen anywhere, let alone in the Pentagon. So I just recall standing there for a considerable period of time just looking at it, and there really wasn't anything I could say, and you almost felt numb at the time. You don't know what to feel. So I did leave the area and walked back to the Army National Guard Readiness Center, which is a couple miles away, and a friend of mine who worked there gave me a ride home that evening. I finally got home about 6 or 6:30, and never really did celebrate my birthday that evening, but the following year we did go out in fine fashion and celebrate my birthday. And every year from now on, we will celebrate my birthday on September 11th. We're not going to let some tin-horn terrorists take that away from us, at least not in my family. Future generations, I'm sure, are going to look back at this day, and much the same as I look back on the attack on Pearl Harbor and wonder how it could happen. We could debate that forever. But the one thing that future generations must always remember is that freedom is not free, and we must work hard to maintain our freedom so that things like this won't happen in the future. Thank you.